All right, party goers, welcome back to Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast. Before we get into the sponsors and everything else, as you may have noticed, we have taken a little bit of time off. We have not done an episode since the Kendrick Lamar episode this past December. And I do apologize for that, but just a couple updates out there for you. Late last year, I had some heart issues, had to go to the emergency room overnight for AFib. And last year was also the first year that I had, very high blood pressure. So I took the last 3 months off to just kind of reset, reassess, get healthier. I'm very glad to be back. I'm not a fan of taking breaks from this. It's not a job. When you're doing something that you love every day, it's definitely not a job. And I enjoy this so much. And I just want to give a big thank you to my beautiful daughter here that's joining us, my amazing wife, my family, my friends that have reached out on, whether text messages or social media. Still dealing with a little bit of high blood pressure, but the AFib is definitely under control as of right now. So just trying to get better to get back to work. I am on short-term disability as well as FMLA. But yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update on why it's been so long since our last episode. We do want to dedicate this episode on Avengers Doomsday. By the way, we're going to be talking about the announcements, everything that was announced last week, what we think about the MCU and all that fun stuff. But we definitely want to dedicate this episode to our sweet, sweet Leia, who unfortunately crossed the Rainbow Bridge early in January. Not the way you want to start off a new year, but let me tell you, this dog brought so much joy to my daughter and I for just about 16 years of our lives. And we just hope that we made her as happy as she made us. So, for those of you with fur babies out there, whether cats, kittens, and whatever pets you got, hug them, kiss them. You just never know. Not that it was sudden. Leia was on a pretty, I don't want to say steady decline, but at the end of the day, you can never really prepare yourself for anything like that. So, Leia, this episode and every episode following is for you, and we love you and we miss you so much. And yeah, before I get all choked up, I want to give a big shout out to our amazing sponsors out there. DJ Scotty DeBody, for all your events, weddings, get-togethers, corporate events, the whole nine yards. Not only is he a DJ, but he also has like booths and everything else that you could think of. You can reach out to him at topropeentertainment.com. That is topropeentertainment.com. Of course, our good friends over at Golden Ticket Cinemas, the former Brassfield Cinemas here in Greensboro, North Carolina, for all your cinematic adventures. Sailfish Comics with 3 amazing locations for all your comic book and graphic novel needs, as well as action figures. Concord, Winston-Salem, as well as our home base right here in Greensboro across from Best Buy. O2 Fitness, be sure to check them out. Locations all over the Carolinas. You can get a 21-day free trial membership, and I highly suggest you try it out because I promise you will be hooked. Jordan and I are members. And we actually reached out to them for a sponsorship. They did not reach out to us. That's how much that we love the gym. So for O2 Fitness, you get a 21 free trial. Check it out. I guarantee you'll be hooked. And of course, all the businesses that support Zero Dark Nerdy, as well as our trivia and game nights. We have 6 to 7 now across the triad. A lot to name. I don't want to get through it. I want to get into this episode on Doomsday because, I want to get back into this. And like I said, I've missed it so much. My daughter's been on my case about getting back in the podcast studio, but in a very good way, in a very supporting way. So, just be sure to check out Zero Dark Nerdy on Facebook and IG. And most importantly, if you go to our website, popculturepodcast.com, go to the events page. You can see where we're doing trivia and game nights and music bingo and everything else under the sun, literally Monday through Friday. So, yeah, now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about Avengers Doomsday. So, real quick, May 1st, 2026, production has just started. The big announcements came last week. Very star-studded cast. We're hoping that they obviously leave some people out there for Secret Wars. It's going to be the first Avengers movie since Endgame, which came out April 26, 2019. So we're talking 7 years since the last Avengers movie. It's going to start to wrap up the multiverse saga, which has been definitely hit or miss. And that's something that we're going to cover on this episode. But most importantly, we're going to talk about the announcement, the cast, who's missing, who we'd like to see. Obviously, save some for Secret Wars, and then just kind of go over some of our favorite, movies and shows from the last really couple phases, phase 4 and phase 5, as we get ready to head into phase 6, which will be kicked off with Fantastic Four. So, Jordan, thank you for joining us. And how would you like to start this off?
I don't know. I guess we can just start with like the cast that was announced so far. I'm sure everybody saw the teaser of well, I guess it is a teaser of sorts, like of the all the chairs with the actors' names on it that are coming back. So a pure fanfare type teaser.
Mm-hmm.
um I think Doomsday and Secret Wars, it's going to be obviously a lot of fanfare with that many characters involved. It'll be kind of unavoidable. Which fanfare is not a bad thing.
Right.
So it's exciting seeing, the OGs coming back. But yeah, everybody, RDJ, it'll be cool to see, more of the OGs.
Should
Um
we should we go over the original the official cast so far?
Yeah.
All right. So
Do you have
yeah,
it
so I
there?
have it up. I have it pulled up. So going down the list here, this is the official cast according to the announcement. I'm sure we're going to get some surprises in there. We're going to be talking about that. And unless you've been hiding under a rock or you're not really a fan of these movies, Robert Downey Jr. is back as Doctor Doom, which it'll be very
Hmm.
interesting to see how they place him in the MCU. Chris Hemsworth, Thor is back. Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Paul Rudd, Ant Man.
Oh,
Lou or
Simu Liu.
Simu Liu from Shang Chi. Pedro Pascal. So we have some newcomers on here: Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Eben Moss, Backrack, back Backrack, I
Oh,
think it is.
I know. Yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah, but these
How to say
four
that one.
are
But
in the
the thing,
Fantastic Four.
yeah.
Yep. And then, we did get some, even though Thunderbolts isn't out yet, it's apparent that most of the people in Thunderbolts are
Hmm.
alive, and we'll get into that. Lewis Pullman, who is playing Sentry in Thunderbolts. But, then we get Ian McKellen, the original Magneto, back. We got Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier. Kelsey Grammer, who made a nice little cameo, probably one of the very few end credit scenes that I've enjoyed since Endgame. And that's something we'll get to too, as far as the mid credit and end credit scenes since Endgame have been very miss, more miss than hit. But we got to see a glimpse of him at the end of the Marvels. James Marsden is back as Cyclops, which I always thought he played a great Cyclops. One of the biggest announcements that I think a lot of people are excited for: Channing Tatum coming back as our favorite resident of New Orleans with mutant powers. Good old Gambit. Rebecca Romaine coming back as Mystique is awesome.
Mm.
And then, of course, Patrick Stewart. And then another one that was super exciting, Alan Cumming, who I always thought was a great Nightcrawler. I am so excited to see him come back. Then we have Latita Wright, who is the newest Black Panther. She was the sister to the original
Shuri.
Black Panther. Shuri, yeah, Shuri. That's right. I'm gonna butcher this name too. Tenoch Huerta, who plays Namor. He's coming back. He was really, really great in the Narcos Mexico season 1. Danny Ramirez, who has now been in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and he was just in
Mm.
Captain America: Brave New World as like the new Falcon per se. Anthony Mackie coming back as Captain America. Florence Pugh coming on back as Yelena Belova. Then we have David Harbour coming back as Red Guardian. Hannah John Kamen coming back as Ghost. So one of my favorite and probably one of the most underrated quote unquote villains in the MCU. And then Winston Duke coming back as Umbaka from Black Panther is exciting. So that's the list, the official cast list as of right now. So it's deep, it's heavy, it's a lot. And we know that they got to save some for Secret Wars. So, again, May 1st, 2026. What are your thoughts? Who's missing? Who are you looking forward to? And what's coming up next?
My thoughts is it's a lot. Um, I've always been into comics and Marvel and DC since I was little
Hmm.
because of you and what like just growing up with it.
Yeah.
I love these things very much, but I don't know.
Say
I'm
it.
just
Say it.
I'm
Say it with your
overwhelmed. I'm
chest.
just overwhelmed, and I still have superhero fatigue. Just I feel like that's still a thing, especially
Mhm.
post like Endgame and on, just post
Yeah.
Endgame. It's just and the multiverse kind of being a huge aspect of that as well. It's
Sure.
hard to not have at least a moment of superhero fatigue, but mine just seems it keeps growing because they're trying to see the multiverse thing all the way through and then wrap things up. I think for our OGs, I hope I feel like a bad guy for saying that because I love the OG Avengers lineup. I love
Mhm.
ScarJo, RDJ, everybody. I don't know. Like we haven't even started talking about Doomsday, and I'm just ready to talk about like after Doomsday, after Secret. Like
Sure.
I'm more excited about like Fantastic Four entering
Mhm.
the picture and like hopefully a better go at not the cast of X-Men, but like giving the X-Men like a new life and a new
Right.
storylines and whatnot. That's the stuff
Right.
I'm excited for is like the new stuff, Young Avengers, Thunderbolts. I'm still excited about Doomsday and Secret Wars, but like I'll admit it's hard for me to even I don't know. Like I'm just really hoping that they're good because it just seems like there's so already so much happening with this cast that they've announced that I'm just it's just hard. The bigger the cast, like the harder it is to round out your plot and make sure you're not leaving plot holes and like lazy things around in the script. And so
Yeah.
I'm hoping for the best. Um, but yeah, as far as like anybody missing, no, technically no. Like, please don't add uh
You're not looking for Halle
everybody.
Berry to show up as
No, I
Storm?
am. I am. I, yeah, like I would love to see Halle Berry as Storm. Storm is one of my favorite superheroes. I would love that. I hope to see that.
Hmm.
Um, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine's another favorite superhero. There's no better Wolverine. There's honestly, I don't think there's a more accurate superhero casting than Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So
Agreed.
I never don't want to see him back. And then I'd love to see Daphne Keane come back as X-23. X-23 is another favorite of mine.
Hmm.
And I'd love to see a couple of the newer gen X-Men from like Days of Future Past and whatnot. Like I'd like to see Evan Peters Quicksilver again.
Yeah.
I like his Quicksilver a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see I mean, they already have Rebecca coming back as Mystique, but I prefer Jennifer Lawrence
Jennifer
Mystique. Like
Lawrence is great.
I love her Mystique. I
Yeah.
think she was awesome as Mystique. So I'd love to see her come back as Mystique somewhere, somehow.
Mhm.
And it doesn't, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be Doomsday. I would
Right.
like to see those are like my person, like my selfish. I want to see these people come back. But is Doomsday the right place? I don't know. I no idea.
'Cause, I
So
mean, if you think about it, we got 7, 14, 21, 22, almost 30 people confirmed for this movie, and they obviously have to make room for more for Secret Wars
Oh
because
my
that's
God.
as far as comic book goes, you have the Infinity Stones, the Infinity War, which unfortunately we did not get the X-Men for that because they still belong to Fox and everything else, and they're a huge part of that as well. And besides that, after that was Secret Wars, which is a whole battle world thing that Doctor Doom creates
Yeah.
that's incredibly intriguing and very interesting. And I do agree with you, just to kind of backtrack a little bit in terms of just kind of like timeline stuff. Yes, oversaturation in terms of, in particular the MCU space, especially because around that same time, because we got this right before the pandemic. I mean, imagine
Hmm.
that this was released, supposed to be released in 2020, and we couldn't see it after the events of Infinity War. Like people would have lost their minds. Like we
Yeah.
got to enjoy that the year before the pandemic hit, before everything shut down, and we've talked about it on past episodes. And it's just like, wow, because they push so many movies. I mean, hell, Top Gun Maverick was supposed to come out, I believe, 2019, 2020, and it didn't come out till 2022, maybe 2023.
Yeah.
I could be
Hmm.
wrong. There was a lot of stuff that was pushed because they didn't want to send it right to streaming. Why would they? They want those box office numbers. They want those figures. They want to be highlighted in that. And I mean, it really is. The Endgame set the bar so high you can only climb up so much. And then when you kill off, and obviously, this should be for those of you that have been listening for a while, or if you're just listening. I mean, this is a spoiler heavy podcast as well. And if you don't know that Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man passed at the end of Endgame, then you might not be listening to the right
Girl,
podcast.
yeah, you don't get a
But
spoiler.
yeah,
What are
so
you doing?
between that, Chris Evans actually growing old with Peggy Carter, there was a lot of moments in there where it's just like, oh wow, we're wrapping up, but we're not closing the chapter because there are so many good people left. But with that being said, Phase 4 that started after the Infinity Stone saga, which was phases 1 through 3, and they did such a good job of just leading up to Thanos and like sprinkling Thanos in, and we did not have Disney Plus and all these shows that we we're supposed to also pay attention to,
Hmm.
which is a lot. For the average
It's a
moviegoer, you're
lot.
going to about, and I'm talking the average moviegoer here, not just someone that just goes like once every 20 years. The average moviegoer goes to the theater about 3 to 4 times a year max, which is normally enough for, the MCU and stuff like that. And I'm saying the average. I'm not talking about people that have
I'm
like
like,
passes to stuff
dang.
like that, or, people like us that we try to go at least once a
Yes.
month. You know what I mean? So most people like, and, let's face it, it's not exactly cheap to go to the movie theaters. So,
Yeah.
you're trying to save money. So, yeah, I mean, for instance, Phase 4, which started 2021 to 2022 after the pandemic, pretty much, here is how much stuff has come out. And I mean, you want to talk about oversaturation. TV show wise, we had WandaVision, fantastic. Falcon Winter Soldier, great. Then we had Black Widow. Then Loki season 1. Then What If. And this is not all in chronological order. I'm just stating all the stuff that's come out.
Hmm.
Shang-Chi, Eternals, Hawkeye, Spider-Man No Way Home, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, Thor Love and Thunder, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Werewolf by Night, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I mean, that is in a 1 to almost 2 year time span. We're talking almost 20 titles between TV and movies alone.
So
And then,
crazy.
yeah. And again, not a lot of great mid or post credit scenes that were very memorable. I would say from that universe, Spider-Man No Way Home is the best. Without a doubt. It was fantastic seeing Toby come back, Andrew Garfield come
Mm.
back. everything with that. Moon Knight was fantastic. But as far as like mid and post credit scenes, I would probably say Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, only because of the Charlize Theron intro. But then it ended with your typical. And as much as I love Bruce Campbell, and Bruce Campbell, I love you. Okay, I do. But your director, Sam Raimi, going all the way back to Evil Dead. I don't know what it is. Like he always has to find a way for his car and Bruce Campbell to make it into a movie, and it always seems a little bit forced. Just very much like with Rob Zombie and his wife. He will put her in everything that he does. And I'm not saying that they're terrible performances, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, yeah, you're, that like Bruce Campbell is Sam Raimi's son at this point, and Rob Zombie's wife is Rob Zombie's wife that we know we're going to see. She's either going to be a lead in a movie or, play a majority of the movie. And I understand like being loyal and being respectful, but, I love
No.
you and I love my wife, but I'm not throwing you guys in every single thing that I do. And you wouldn't throw me as your dad in every movie that you did unless it made sense, and it's
No.
just, again, the post credit scenes. Then there was Eternals. They had the mid credit scene with Harry Styles, which everybody went crazy about. Saba and I talked about it on our Eternals review. Then the very, very last scene with the introduction of the Black Knight, where you could hear Mahershala Ali telling him, "Hey, you don't want to touch that sword," and that's our first introduction to Blade, which has now been postponed for God knows how long.
I
It
don't know
just
if that
hasn't
one's gonna
been,
happen.
yeah, it's just kind of been a little bit, and that's just phase four. We haven't even gotten to phase five yet, but phase four, they definitely weren't, this was a relay race. They did not really grab the
Hmm.
baton and really run with it. They kind of fumbled around themselves a little bit. And at that point, they were just, and let's admit it, Disney was focused on content. It's not quality, it was quantity. That's what they were
Hmm.
focused on. Content, 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 content. This is what people love. This is what we're getting paid billions of dollars on. We're going to keep pumping out Marvel shit, whether if it makes sense or not.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, going to phase five, which is
Yeah.
2023 through now, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, to me, still the biggest waste of a Bill Murray cameo I've ever seen in my entire life. I was very excited to see Bill Murray in the movie, and it was a letdown. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is definitely a
Mm.
highlight of this phase.
Yes.
Tearjerker, this is the one franchise I will still say to this day where I at least shed a tear in all three of the movies. And if you didn't, I feel like you're not human or you just don't understand stories.
Yeah. I've
It's
never
just,
cried more than I. I've never cried at a movie more than I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
oh man. And
It's
that
rough. I mean, it's so good, but
yeah,
so
it's so rough.
brutal.
And I'll give credit to Saba saying this on the podcast. A lot of people are like, well, this is the, Peter Quill's story. And no, it was not. It was literally a trilogy more about Rocket than it
Hmm.
was Peter Quill. And the third one exemplified that. And to me, we
Oh,
had our worst villain to date. Like this dude was an animal, just taking advantage of animals. So no pun intended. But he played the worst of the worst. And, then we had Secret Invasion, which wasn't too bad. A lot of people hated on it. I didn't think it was that terrible. Loki season 2 was pretty good. The Marvels, which we, touched on briefly. What If season 2, Echo, Deadpool and Wolverine, Agatha All Along, which we both watched and loved. We're going to have another What If. And then we just saw Captain America Brave New World, which, while we're on it, let's just go ahead and talk about it since we didn't have a chance to preview it this year. It's okay. The
yeah.
previews made it seem like it was going to be Captain America versus Red Hulk, where unfortunately, again, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen Captain America, the newest one, Brave New
Brave New
World,
World. Yeah.
turn this off now and then, or skip ahead to like 5 minutes. The previews make it seem like it's Captain America versus Red Hulk. Red Hulk is all
No,
of 5 minutes of
spoiler
the
alert,
end of the
it's
movie.
not.
Yeah.
It's
And the
not.
villain for this movie was, again, much to be desired.
I think Captain America Brave New World, it was good again from an acting standpoint, and I like Anthony Mackie as the new Cap, and his part is Robin, which is the like the new Falcon, is what's his
Hmm.
name? The Hispanic guy. He's really funny, and so I feel like they have good chemistry together.
They do.
And you get a little bit of a Bucky Barnes
Yeah.
part as well, spoiler alert, but
Yeah.
that I think is going to kind of correlate with what's going on with him and Thunderbolts. He's
Yeah.
running for some being a senator or something.
Yeah.
So that's nice because Falcon and Winter Soldier, they have great chemistry
Oh,
as
it's
well.
great. I
Um,
love that show. To me, that's in my top three, my top
yeah.
five, really, but top three.
But there was just some things in the movie that the writing was just like for instance I don't think they knew what to do with Red Hulk. They literally just put him
Yeah.
in there because Red Hulk. Come
Yep.
see the Red Hulk. Because his whole story like thing with his daughter made
Yeah.
that was his like driving force into like trying to not become the Red Hulk is like for
Right.
my daughter that he fucked up with or whatever. And you don't see her until the end.
Who are you?
You know who I am.
I do.
And they try to like make it all come together, and it's like it doesn't connect because
Yeah.
so it's just the way they put the Red Hole. They just didn't, unfortunately, make you care or like round him out. It's just
Yeah.
like okay, so but it was what it was.
And you know what though? That's typically how the bullshit goes. You feel me?
So what would be, as far as since Endgame, and we can do shows as well as movies, as far as phase four, phase five, as we get ready to go to phase six, which will start with Fantastic Four, first steps. What have just been, some of your favorites and which ones have been like, ugh, I'll never watch that again?
You want to start with movies or shows?
I mean, you can throw them in. You can, if you want to throw them all in to the same thing, it's up to you.
I mean, I have a top three movies and top three shows.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
um, I guess we can start with movies.
Hmm.
But number three for me, let me preface this first by saying that because of my superhero fatigue and whatnot, haven't seen a lot of the what is it? What phase is after Endgaming? At phase five,
Phase four.
phase four.
Hmm.
Still have not seen a lot of phase four movies and shows.
Hmm.
So this is just based off the ones that I have seen. My number three for movies is No Way Home. Um, it's it's great. For me, it was really great because I've always had a hard time loving the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Hmm.
I know he's a perfect Spider-Man. um, but his I guess rendition, I guess you could say, of Spider-Man or his like persona or whatever just isn't the one I personally prefer. Like I like the darker undertones of like the Sony Andrew Garfield Spider-Man is my favorite.
Hmm.
Just because it had a different vibe, maybe a not Disney-fied vibe. Maybe sounds harsh, but I just Tom Holland's definitely more of like a kid-friendly Spider-Man, which is cool. Like
Hmm.
he, after all, Spider-Man is a kid, so it's cool. But I always had a hard time like getting super into that version of Spider-Man. I
Sure.
always liked the movies, like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies,
Yeah.
but like the character, it just wasn't one where I'm like, oh, I love Spider-Man. It was just
Sure.
like I like the plots though. But for No Way Home, definitely, seeing Toby back, seeing Andrew back, Willem Dafoe, Doc
Andy
Ock,
Fox.
and I mean, that was cool.
Yeah.
There's like no way for that not to be cool. So
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed No Way Home, and I thought it was a really like actually good moment in the multiverse where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, this is cool, and I want to follow and see where it
Right.
goes.
Like that,
And
that
I'm
to
not
me is
getting
like what
lost.
should have led off the multiverse. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap, this shit's about to be awesome.
Yeah, so that was great. And I love like the Green Goblin. I love That's probably my favorite Spider-Man villain is Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
He's the best.
Um, so I was really happy to see him back. Um, So that's my number three. My number two movie is Deadpool versus Wolverine. Does that count? That counts, right?
Yeah, it
I
counts.
mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's more solo, but it's still in the face.
right, right. I obviously I love Wolverine. It's a great movie. Yeah, yeah. I love Wolverine slash
Yeah.
Logan,
Oh,
whatever.
gotcha. Yeah.
Uh, Deadpool as a hero has kind of dawned on me. I talked to my dad about, but like, I feel like, and I've talked to my girlfriend about this too. Actually, I think she's the one who brought it up, and it made perfect sense. She was like, as I've gotten older, like Deadpool's just become more annoying to me, and like, it's hard to find it funny all the time. And I definitely resonate with that, but that's a personal thing. It
Yeah.
still makes for really fun movies
Yeah.
and like a different vibe to Marvel and um but Logan and Deadpool being like rated R as well, setting a different stone and like stone, a different stage for Marvel
Yeah.
to perform on and whatnot and do that. They did it great, and so bringing those together finally, it was awesome, and all the cameos
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatnot, and the fights and action. There's nothing else to say. It's a great movie. My number one movie is Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Mm.
It's phenomenal. I've only seen it the one time in theaters because I haven't been able to make myself watch it again because I've never cried that much in a movie theater before. Even in like life, I don't even know. Yeah, I've cried more than that. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow. I have a very soft spot for animals. Like I cannot watch animals be hurt, let alone like even old animals sometimes make me
CGI,
cry.
it doesn't matter.
Like I don't care
Yeah.
what's happening. If the animals are in danger, I'm very upset. And so, but it was a great, great, great movie. Soundtrack was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Guardians are one of my favorite groups besides X-Men. I think right behind it is Guardians for me. Just a phenomenal cast as well. All those movies, luckily, have been great. Holiday special included. So yeah, that's my top three movies from this phase.
Before we get to shows, let me go over my top three. Very, very similar to yours. I think number three might be a surprise, and you and I have talked about this at length, but I still don't think that this movie got the flowers that it deserved. Shang-Chi and the Ten
Oh
Rings
yeah.
is phenomenal.
Yeah,
It
it's
is a
awesome.
great movie. The action scenes are honestly some of the best action scenes
The
in the
action is so
MCU.
cool.
And, not as far as like superpowers and everything else, but just great, high quality action scenes. The storyline was good. It was
Hmm.
entertaining. It was funny. Mid credit scene and post credit actually wasn't that bad for this now that I remember.
Hmm.
So, Shang-Chi, however I'm saying it, again, just a reminder, English is not my first language, so don't butcher me in the comments. But Shang-Chi was fantastic. No Way Home, 100% is, I'm gonna go number one just because, like, I remember right when you were born is when the first Spider-Man came out, and that was like
Hmm.
for the exception of Blade, there were not a lot of great superhero movies.
Right.
There was a lot of duds, a ton of duds. Like Blade came out, and to us, it was just like this was this awesome Wesley Snipes vampire, half vampire, half human flick. And then I found out it was a comic book. I was like, holy crap! Like this is
Yeah.
amazing, and it was rated R too. So, that was really my first, like, holy crap, this is good. Then we got the X-Men films, which were still really
Hmm.
good. But the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, though, I mean, that was at that time the highest grossing weekend ever. And, one of the highest grossing movies ever. And I'll just never forget that just during that time. And especially because it was right around 9/11 as well. Like it was crazy. If you can actually find the poster to where one of the original movie trailers for Spider-Man before it came out, it was him using the Twin Towers to build a web to catch a like a rogue helicopter coming in that was full of
Really?
bandits. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
there's still movie posters out there where it's a close up of Spider-Man's face, but in his eyes you can see a reflection of the Twin Towers. And yeah, obviously those after 9/11 were taken down, but it was just again just mesmerizing and groundbreaking. I mean, that really paved the way for so much,
Mm-hmm.
just as good as it was. And I'll go. So that's my number one. So I kind of with Tarantino did. I started off at number three, went to number one. Number two, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like we just talked about, this is really more a trilogy, more about Rocket than it was about Peter Quill, but it still was about Peter Quill in a way. But the third one definitely was like, holy crap, this whole thing is about Rocket and why he's the way he is,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's one of and a lot of people are, it's the humor and everything else, but Rocket Raccoon, his IQ is up there with the level of Tony Stark and Bruce Banner.
Oh,
Yeah, so Rocket's, IQ level is up there with Bruce Banner as well as Tony Stark. He's one of the most superior minded people in the entire galaxy, which is why he can create all these weapons and come up with these calculations. But seeing his story in the beginning, and you're right, it's heartbreaking. Even though this is CGI and we know this is not real, like holy crap! I've never again, and probably never will see a trilogy where I have cried at least once. Just even if it's just one single tear. The first Guardians when Groot goes, "We are Groot."
mm-hmm.
Then the second one when they cremate Yandu. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness gracious. And this one was a lot earlier because those two were more towards the end of the movie.
Oh, I was crying the whole time during Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Immediately.
Right. And you just see the pain that he went through and why he's an asshole per se. And it's just like, holy crap. So and still to this day, one of the and I mean best villains, not in a way I'm trying to salute or cheer this guy. Like James Gunn is.
No.
And I also forgot to mention to respect the fact that none of the cast from Guardians 3 wanted to come back. And they told Disney, if you want us to make Guardians 3, you need to bring James Gunn back. Because he was fired for making some comments back in, 2009, 2010, whatever it was. I'm not agreeing with the comments. I do know people make mistakes. This is a country built on second chances, and they let him go. He went to DC, did Suicide Squad, and then Batista. Everybody was like, "Hey, we're not coming back to do this without James Gunn. So you either don't get a Guardians 3 or you do, but it's not going to be with us if you don't bring back James Gunn." So it was also his farewell to the MCU, which is sad because it was a great relationship, but Disney being the way they are, God forbid you said something dumb back on social media back in the day. And I mean, it happens. We are not perfect people. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. Yes, you should watch what you're saying and what you're doing. But at the end of the day, I definitely believe in second chances, within reason, right? I'm not sitting here trying to support people that are super,
Right.
super deplorable and the scum of the earth. But yeah, those are my top three. Switching over to shows, just to kind of wrap this up a little bit. As far as my favorite, because the whole Disney Plus, yeah, especially the Marvel platform, started after the pandemic, really started after Endgame.
Yeah.
I'd love it. Just honorable mention as we talked about, WandaVision, I thought was fantastic, something completely different, and for someone that
So good.
old school, watching shows like The Munsters, watching I Love Lucy,
Hmm.
watching Charles in Charge, going from like the 60s to whatever. This was such a great throwback and done so well and very, very well thought out. And then you get these little glimpses and cameos. And of course, it's a setup to Agatha all along, which makes it even that much more special. So that one's in there. It's not in my top three, but I just want to say how special it was. And of course, Captain America, or at that point, it was Falcon and Winter Soldier. This was like the closest thing that we could get to a Lethal Weapon in terms of not the Lethal Weapon TV show that you see on TV, but like a Lethal Weapon show, a buddy cop show, a Rush Hour per se, whatever you could think
Hmm.
of. Like this was the MCU's buddy cop transition right here between Bucky and of course Sam. And I thought they
Yeah.
did it so well. But in terms of like my actual top three, and these are a lot of people that know just from listening to the podcast, a lot of my decisions are based on rewatchability. I got to go What If season one, especially the Marvel Zombies episode. Marvel Zombies is one of my favorite comic books. Everybody that knows me knows I love zombie shit. So that episode's fantastic, but I thought the first season was dynamic, just because I really like the What If comic books. Loki season one is just undeniable, and not even just for multiverse purposes. It was just such fun, and again, a little bit of that buddy cop thing between Loki and Owen Wilson's character. But then factor in all these different timelines, and then they brought in the I think it's what the not the TSA, the T.
No, the TVA.
Yeah, they brought in. Yeah. We already have a TSA to deal with.
Yeah.
That they brought in the TVA and the broken timelines, and then we get our first glimpse at He Who Is Not Named, which that's another story for another day. So, but still, the relationship between Loki and Owen Wilson's characters are fantastic, and the storylines that really led from that show to further to keep the multiverse going was great. And I got to say, and this is not in any particular order, by the way, I thought Moon Knight was fantastic. A lot of people hate on it because of the very last episode, because of,
Mm.
again, spoilers ahead. There's big shout outs to Kip. He's like, the MCU loves throwing in like these two gigantic, whether beings or whatever, like fighting each other like Godzilla versus Kong. And I will say it wasn't the greatest finale of all time, but Oscar Isaac in that role and playing all these different characters and going through, schizophrenia and sleep apnea, and not just sleep apnea, but sleep deprivation, the whole nine yards. I thought Moon Knight, and it still is to this day, an incredible watch.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard like mixed things, like you either love it or hate it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I'm gonna wrap up at least my end on the TV shows. What are some of your favorite Disney Plus Marvel shows?
My top three, just based off what I watched. For three, I got Falcon and Winter Soldier. I thought it was a really fun, like heartwarming
Mhm.
one, and the action was pretty cool. I love their their chemistry and their even you can even see like in the interviews like they have a chemistry too, like a
Yeah,
banter,
yeah,
and so I like that. I like that season a lot more than I thought, and the whole John Walker thing. We're gonna see that in
yeah,
Thunderbolts too. When he that I mean, I like that aspect of the show. That was a very I haven't seen The Boys, but I know a lot about it because my dad, my family, a lot of my friends love it, and it's just one of those shows I just haven't had time to get into, and it's getting away from me now because it's so far down now. But anyways, it reminded me the whole John Walker thing reminded me a little bit of The Boys, like the whole take on like if superheroes acted more how they probably would given that power. The whole John Walker with like the blood spatter on the Captain America shield, I thought that was awesome. I
yeah.
thought that was cool.
100%.
Because I'm like, okay, that gave me kind of a more realistic, kind of scary, frightening the boys
Yeah.
vibe, which I like.
I'm
I like,
very excited to see John Walker back in the Thunderbolts.
yeah, it's an interesting story. I'm interested to see, more of that. Um, Number two, I put Hawkeye. It's another
It's a
heartwarming, like
fun show.
it's a Christmas show as well. My
Yes.
girlfriend and I watch it every Christmas. It's definitely in her top three. Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is perfect
Yeah,
casting. She is just
100%.
like that in, the comics and West Coast Avengers and whatnot, and Pizza Dog, and you get more of Yelena, and she's badass. Their chemistry is really funny and cool to watch too between Kate Bishop and Yelena.
Mhm.
Jeremy Renner. It's a good one.
Yeah,
I mean that one's just, you're not, obviously it's definitely on the lighter side.
yeah.
Um I don't know, like there's just nothing wrong with that show to me. Like
No, no.
they did a
It's
great job
fun.
with that.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't want to say flawless, but and also
Right.
too, let's give a shout out to the tracksuit mafia. That shit is
Yeah.
hysterical. Like it plays with it a little bit, but it's fun. Like it's a fun
Yeah.
watch, and then you get Kingpin there at the end. So
Yeah. And you get like shout outs to first responders that are like the LARPers or whatever, which is corny, but like it's
yeah,
it's
I forgot
sweet.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very sweet. There's a lot of like first responder like shout outs.
yeah,
Yeah, I just like that one. I've watched that one probably more than any of the shows because it's also a very fast
yeah,
watch.
yep,
You can do it in one day.
yeah. They're what, 30 minutes, 45? They're not
Yeah,
that
like
long.
very, yeah. And it's like, I think it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah, good
So,
call. Good call.
and it's rumored, it's seeming like it's gonna, but they might do another season of Hawkeye,
I hope
which
so.
I would
And
love.
by the way, Jeremy Renner, good to see you back on your feet, buddy. He went through
Yeah,
a horrific accident a couple of years ago.
that's nuts. Yeah. But yeah, that's my number two. My number one is WandaVision. That, I think that was the first show I watched, and I didn't watch it when it come out. I've only watched it maybe a year and a half ago, finally watched it. And it's incredible. That show is near flawless. Like it it's super creative. The whole every episode is a new era of television.
Hmm.
Wanda has one of the most tragic backstories of any of these guys.
Yeah,
She lost everyone and everything,
everything and
and then
everyone.
and then some more.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Her brother, the
and
love of her life.
yeah, her parent, like everybody.
Yeah.
And this show, I mean, I could do a whole episode just on this show. The casting's great. I love. Who's the guy who plays Vision too? He's
Um,
really good as Vision.
Bethany.
Paul
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Paul Bethany.
Um, it's just really well done. Like it's got its funny moments, it's really dark moments. Like piecing what is happening together is done really well to where you're not so frustrated at like what's going on. Like they give you just enough each episode to like want to come back for more and not be like mad at the cliffhangers. Like, or cliffhangers is not really when, but
It's almost like the MCU's version of Severance,
yeah,
if you think about it.
it is. It's really cool. And I love I love the darker stuff when it comes to anything to do with superheroes. Um because it just feels more like real to me.
Hmm.
Um and so it showed what happened, what came from Wanda's grief, like immense grief,
Yeah.
but towards the end of the season. And then multiverse of madness, is that after, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
after.
And so I'm hoping that like maybe with this X-Men stuff in the future, maybe Scarlet Witch will come back and like some House of M stuff will happen to where, her father is Magneto, and because House of M is also rooted in her grief kind of causing these events to happen, and like her power is insane. So I really want to see more Scarlet Witch as well. So I don't know if she'll show up. I saw something that she's like not, like she's definitely not going to be in Doomsday. But well, you never know. I want to see more of her for sure.
I'd love to.
In
So
relation to X-Men would be awesome.
yeah, and you can put this on the record, and you know us, we don't like to talk ill of people, but at the same time, we're in year 7. We can't always keep it rainbows and sunshine, so we're just going to call it how it is from here on out, moving forward, especially with my health issues. I blame one person and one person only for Multiverse of Madness, and that's Sam Raimi. I just
Um,
I just don't get it. Like, I understand he did Evil Dead. I understand he did the first three Spider-Man movies, which the first two were great. The third
right.
one, pure garbage.
Evil Dead is great.
Evil Dead's great, but since
It,
then, I mean, we got, Oz the Great and Powerful. There's really not much since then. So I don't know why he keeps getting these jobs. Like, he's been attached to some movies, he's been attached to Don't Breathe as a
oh, Don't Breathe is pretty
producer.
good.
And that's the thing. It's like, as a
That's a
producer,
good one.
which if he
Yeah.
wants to produce, have at it. He's done 30, he produced 30 Days a Night. He's produced some good stuff, but it's not like, and I understand the Russo brothers, right? Like, they came in and they did Winter Soldier, Captain America, Winter Soldier, which blew all of our minds, which opened the doors for them
Mm-hmm.
to obviously do more, which is great. And I
Yeah.
would like to see Marvel keep doing that. Like, apparently, the next Doctor Strange movie is also going to be a Sam Raimi movie. And
What?
I don't want to see it.
How? How did that get
I don't.
greenlit?
So I don't want to see another movie where he throws in Bruce Campbell for no reason at all and his car, and it just doesn't tie together. Like, Multiverse of Madness, to be quite honest with you, should have been up there. Not saying it's not Spider-Man No Way Home, but not far from it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
This was really far from it. Like, I couldn't wait for that movie to be over.
It's a bummer. It
Yeah.
really
I
is.
blame him for that. And I agree with you. Like, WandaVision is so unique and was so ahead of its time. And it really should be in my top three, but I figured you were going to throw it in there. But it is great. And then we got reintroduced to so many characters too from other things. So we had, well, it was our first intro with Catherine Hahn, which Catherine Hahn we love.
Hmm.
She is one of my favorite actresses and has been for such a long time.
So good.
Going back from Step Brothers to even like her cameos in Parks and Rec. That's how much
Hmm.
I love you, Catherine Hahn. We're not just name dropping here. Like, you are awesome. Like, she was in this movie, The Goods, with Jeremy Piven, and she was in
Gosh.
that as well.
Yeah.
And then we get Kat Dennings back, and she hasn't been really in the series since the second Thor movie, and she's great. And it's Paul Bettany, so we were both wrong on that. But then, yeah, then we get Evan Peters back in a short little cameo as Quicksilver.
Hmm.
So there's just so much to it, and it is super unique, and again, super ahead of its time. So it's
Yeah.
great, but I didn't want to go on a entire Sam Raimi diss train, but I think it's time for, if Marvel is still apparently worried, because obviously the Electric State came out on Netflix, and that's a Russo brothers movie, and it didn't do that well, which I don't take it with a grain of salt. It's a fun movie. Is it a masterpiece? No, not by any means. Did it, make back what it should have? How do you know that when literally you don't release it in theaters and you only release it on Netflix, which is another issue? But I
Hmm.
don't know why at all, where if Disney is questioning the Russo brothers, why
Right.
they would even consider bringing back Sam Raimi to do another movie with. He has not done a fantastic film since Spider-Man 2, and let's be honest, that's the truth.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah,
I
but we're
don't
not
know.
we're not millionaires, and we
It
don't.
was it was a wasted opportunity. It was.
Yeah.
It's
All right, party goers. Well, again, thank you so much for listening to us today. We are so happy we are back. Again, thank you to my wonderful wife, my amazing daughter, my incredible family and friends, you, the fans out there that have reached out to wish me best wishes, doing the best I can to get my ticker back to a normal blood pressure rate and to be able to get back to work. But in the meantime, I'm glad to be podcasting again. So definitely more episodes coming out. No more 3-month breaks. Hopefully getting back to week episodes. But this is the first one back. Avengers Doomsday. Why not? Even if I was on my deathbed, I'm sure I'd have to have Jordan mic me up and talk about Doomsday real quick. So again, big shout outs to our sponsors, DJ Scotty DeBody, for all your corporate events, weddings, get-togethers, the whole 9 yards, everything from music to photo booths, whatever you could think of. It's all under one website, the same name, topropeentertainment.com. Golden Ticket Cinemas for all your cinematic adventures here in Greensboro. Sailfish Comics for all your comic book, graphic novel, and action figure needs in Winston-Salem, Concord, North Carolina, and of course, Greensboro, right across from Best Buy. O2 Fitness. Be sure to reach out to them. Tell them that you were sent by Brian and Jordan. Get a 21-day free trial on us. And of course, all the businesses that we are fortunate enough to host a lot of events, game nights at. Be sure to check out our social media sites. Most importantly, our podcast, popculturepodcast.com. Check out the events page. You can see what nights and where we're doing our bingos, music bingo, events, trivias, all that fun stuff. On behalf of Jordan and everyone else here at Zero Dark Nerdy, we will see you next time. Peace.
Bye.